Okay, are we ready then? Brianna? Jeanette?
I believe we're live now. It is showing on my
Yes.
screen that we are recording.
You are now live.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the County Council meeting of August 21st, 2021. We will call the meeting. We'll call the meeting to order. Or April, sorry. April 21st. Call the meeting to order.
So there's a motion to move into closed session. That's moved by Deputy Warden Doyle, seconded by Councillor Smith. Resolve that Council resolve itself into Committee of the Whole closed session as authorized under Section 239 of the Municipal Act to consider adoption of closed minutes of the meeting held March 17th, 2021, and labor relations or employee negotiations as it relates to the upcoming negotiations with QP Local 109 and OPSU Local 462.
Any discussion? All in favor? Carrie, are we going out of this one then and coming back into something?
Yes, that's correct. You will log out of this meeting and into the closed session.
See you on the other side.
Good luck, everybody.
Log me out, back in again into the closed session.
Where's the?
I guess they can see that I'm sitting here. They probably have me cut off, right?
Ron, just before we get going, I froze for the last 10 minutes. I could hear everybody, but people were frozen. So
Go on the ground.
if that happens again, I might log out and log back in. That seems to always fix it, but no doubt I got snow on my receiver antenna this morning.
I guess
My internet is very unstable today.
on the plus side, I didn't see you asking any questions.
Oh. Are you saying opposed to some others that asked too many?
No, I didn't say that at all.
Oh.
I'm probably going to take my video off, but I am here and I am listening.
You'll have to speak up if you have a question, Fran.
I will.
You're going to take your what off, did you say? I missed that.
My video.
Oh, video.
Video.
Okay.
Just wanted to let everybody know that we're still live.
Well, that's fine. I don't see Dorothy back yet. Oh, there he is. Bruce is back. Everybody back now? Who are we missing? Francis is there. I think we have everybody, don't we?
Alan. I don't see Alan.
Nope, I don't see Alan either.
Sorry, I just have a message from Councillor Ravel. He's lost the link, so I'm just forwarding it to him now.
Do you want us to start or you want us to wait?
Your call.
Well, I don't think there's going to be anything earth-startling on that one vote. So if you want to start, we will start. Do we have a resolution, Jeanette?
Sorry, just one moment, please.
You won't.
My apologies. We're just getting Councillor Revel the link. Moved by Councillor Higgs, seconded by Councillor Mcdonald. Resolved that Council rise from Committee of the Whole closed session without reporting.
Okay, any questions or anything? All in favor? Carried. Then we have approval of the addendum.
That's moved by Councillor Higgs and seconded by Councillor Martin, that resolved that the addendum for the April 21st, 2021 meeting of the Council of the County of Frontenac be approved.
All in favor? Carried. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? None reported. Okay. Adoption of the minutes.
Moved by Councillor Higgins, seconded by Deputy Warden Doyle, resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting held March 17th, 2021 be adopted.
Any questions on those minutes? All in favor? Carried. That was a motion, Alan, that they just voted you off. No, just kidding. We'll move into deputations with Mr. Howard Allen from Allen Chartered Accountants doing a presentation. Welcome, Mr. Allen.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Yes, we can. I can.
Good. I'm not sure if you have in front of you a copy of the statements that I wanted to review today. But I wanted to look at, first of all, I just want to say that the audit this year did go well, all things considered. As you know, we really had to conduct the audit remotely this year due to COVID, but I think certainly Alex and his staff were very helpful, and we're sorry to hear that he's not with you today, but overall, I think that the audit did go well under the circumstances. Certainly, COVID has had an impact on a number of municipalities. I would say the financial impact on the County of Frontenac has been less significant than it's been in a lot of urban centers, where they have obviously had significant reductions in transit revenue and recreation and cultural revenue. Some anticipated initially that licenses and permits were going to be greatly reduced, but actually construction has been very robust in a lot of areas. So some of the permits there have actually increased. But if you look at the statement of operations for the year, you'll notice that under revenues, one of the places that we were impacted was under provincial offenses and fines. I mean, they're down significantly. People aren't traveling. People, I guess, aren't getting tickets as much as they used to in prior years. But overall, I mean, the government has been supportive in providing monies because of COVID. And so our revenues for the year for 2020 were actually up. If you go down the page and look at the expenditures actually are, you know, a little bit higher than what we would have anticipated, but again, very, very close to budget under the circumstances. Again, I guess we anticipated that, you know, ambulance services were up and social and family services were very close to what we anticipated. But overall, they're very close to budget. So our net revenues from operations were a bit higher than we anticipated. And when you look at the surplus for the year, it is greater than what we anticipated, largely because I would say of government grants during this year. When you go to the next page, which is the statement of net financial assets, you'll notice that we actually increased our financial assets this year, largely because, you know, of our increase in revenues. And of course, we do have to generate surpluses so we can make our long-term debt payments and pay for our capital. You'll notice that our capital payments, our capital program was a little bit less than what we budgeted, a couple $100,000 or so. But generally speaking, I mean, we were able to increase our financial assets this year. And looking at the balance sheet, which is the next statement, it's interesting. Right now, there is a proposal that they're going to change this framework of the financial statements. You'll recall that we went through a major change probably 10 or 12 years ago, where we basically went away from the cash basis of accounting to, you know, the accrual basis. And we started to account for capital assets for the very first time. What they're projecting now, you'll notice that on this balance sheet, the emphasis is on financial assets. So you can see that we have financial assets of about 24 million. We have financial liabilities of close to 10 million. So we have a net financial asset position of close to $15 million. Our capital assets are kind of put at the bottom because there's less emphasis on this. One of the things that they are wanting to change, you'll notice if you and I were to look at a balance sheet for Bell Canada, for example, they would have their capital assets up right underneath their financial assets. So they're going to change these statements. They're proposing to change the statements so they look more like business statements in the future. But all in all, I would say to you that the records in Frontenac County are well kept. I mean, Alex has done a good job transitioning. I know Susan did a fine job before him. And right now I know Phil is filling in. But generally speaking, I mean, the records are well maintained and we're happy with the controls, as we've noted in our audit findings letter. When you look at the sort of financial indicators, the last couple of pages, there's nothing there that's concerning. I mean, I think certainly, as you know, the government has frozen the assessment for this year, and they're now doing it for a second year. One thing you might want to note is that the province did note this year that they are going to reduce the business education rate. Previously, the business education rate in Frontenac County was 0.125. They're changing it to 0.088, which I think is a very positive move. It seems to me, as you know, the education tax rates are set by the province. And education tax rates have been higher in Eastern Ontario than they are, for example, in Southwestern Ontario. So I'm pleased to see that the government did reduce this rate. It'll have a positive impact on our commercial businesses that are within the County of Frontenac. And I think it's a fair move, because why should commercial taxpayers pay more towards education in Frontenac County than they would be paying, let's say, in Peterborough County? So I think that move by the province was a positive thing. But overall, when you look at the financial indicators and you compare them to what the province thinks is low risk, we're a low risk financial county in all areas. So I think, you know, the county's been well managed financially, and I think our balance sheets and our operations show that. So overall, a positive report, and I'd be happy to try and answer any questions you may have.
Okay, Councillor Higgins. You're going to have to unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Howard, for the report. I'm not sure if it's feasible or not, but I just wanted to get your opinion on paying off the debt versus continuing the debt and paying for it from reserves or from our investments, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, if there was an ability to pay off the debt, it might make sense to consider it. I think it really depends on what rates we're paying on the debt and how that compares to the return we're getting on our monies. For example, if we're paying debt and the rate is 3% and we're only earning 1% on our money, it might make sense to look at it. But I think you really have to look at your long-term financial plan and sort of see what your cash needs are going to be in the future. But I think it's always a good consideration. Right now, a good portion of our debt is paid by the City of Kingston. So we'd have to certainly consider what their thoughts were and what their cash position was. But overall, I think we need to really look at our long-range plan and sort of see what our cash needs are going to be in the future. But certainly borrowing money right now is very cheap, and I'm not sure that's going to continue in the future. I was listening yesterday to a commentary on the budget, and the economists that were speaking at this webinar indicated that they thought that, you know, our interest rates were going to remain low until 2023. So there may be some time to have a look at our finances. I'm just not sure. You'd have to look at the terms too of the debt. You know, is there provision for repayment and things of that nature?
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I do have just a general comment, if you could make one. What do you think is going to happen after 7 years of impact coming back? The way the housing and everything has went through the roof, How are they going to implement that, do you think?
So I'm not sure I follow your question, Ron.
Well, Impact reassessed everything
Oh, I
now it's
see.
5 years ago. They took a year off because of COVID. And they instituted it over 4 years. I understand that. So now they're going to take another year off, which is 6.
Right.
By the
get what you're
time they
saying.
come back, housing has basically doubled.
Yeah.
Assessments are going to basically double. How do you feel that they're going to actually look at the market and go to that extent, or would they do it a lot softer?
I'm hoping that they do it a lot softer. I think that's going to be a very interesting question. I don't know the response, but it's one that worries me significantly, because we have seen, obviously, as you know, very significant increases. And one of the things that I've complained about a little bit is that if you look at major centers like Toronto, their tax rates have been largely subsidized by the very significant commercial and industrial component of assessment. So if you and I were to look at taxes paid for $1 million home in Toronto, they would be less than $1 million home in Frontenac County, because they've enjoyed that subsidy. Now, I guess what I'm worried about is the disparity that might happen between properties in Eastern Ontario, because some properties, I mean, it's unbelievable what farmland is selling for today. And so I don't know how they're going to address this issue, but I'm hoping that they take a very careful look at it before they come back and just say, we're going to, value everything at market value and just let the goodies fall where they may.
But it could have,
you.
it definitely can have an impact on, municipal budgets, county budgets, everything, right? Depending on how they implement it.
Yes. Yeah, very significant.
Okay. If there are no questions, I guess, obviously, thank you, Mr. Allen. It's a great report. I do want to thank the whole financial team. It's positive. So if there are no other questions or comments, then thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you, and stay well, all of you.
You too. Where now, Jeanette? It says see recommendation report.
No, that's just Mr. Allen was speaking to that report. You're now on presentation B.
Yep. And if Francis can come back, Jeanette's going to, Angelique is going to be in her kitchen here in a second. We do have a presentation from Eorn, Fran, a plaque of thanking you for the work that you've done on Eorn. And Angelique is supposed to, I think, speak to it or do a presentation on it.
Angelique is just holding it up there. It's on the screen for you to see.
Okay.
And
well, it says thank you in recognition of your support for improved internet and cell coverage in Frontenac County, although we lost you a few times, so it's but anyway, thank you, Fran, for the work that you've done.
And hopefully the work that happened while I was there will be fruitful down the road so that I won't have to shut off my video to have internet. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations, Fran.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Fran, and congratulations.
Good. We will move on to proclamations.
So for Volunteer Week, it's moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Higgs, whereas the value of one sharing their time, the power of many contributing to healthy aging, improving quality of life, and providing a sense of well-being. And whereas this past year has been challenging for our volunteers who have both stepped up and stepped back to keep our community safe, therefore be it resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac hereby proclaim April 21st to 24th, 2021 to be National Volunteer Week in the County of Frontenac with the theme #Volunteers Bring Change, and further that the County of Frontenac celebrate and thank each of our volunteers for their commitment to others.
You had the date wrong, but that's fine. We understand. I think it's April 18th, but that's okay. Any comments? All in favor? Carried. Thank you to all the volunteers. Absolutely. Emergency Preparedness Week.
That's moved by Councillor Mcdonald, seconded by Councillor Revel, whereas the Council of the County of Frontenac recognizes the importance of everybody being prepared for emergencies, and whereas the goal of Emergency Preparedness Week is to raise community awareness and the need to prepare for the possibility of an emergency, and whereas the safety of our community is the responsibility of each and every one of us, we must prepare now and learn how to secure a strong and healthy tomorrow. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac hereby proclaim the week of May 2nd to May 8th, 2021 to be Emergency Preparedness Week throughout the County of Frontenac with the theme Emergencies Can Happen Anytime, Are You Ready? And further that all citizens are encouraged to make a plan, build a kit, stay informed, and to participate in educational activities on emergency preparedness.
Any comments? All in favor? Carried. Nursing Week.
Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Higgins, whereas May 12th commemorates the birthday of nursing pioneer Florence Nightingale, and whereas nurses are leaders and part of a strong interdisciplinary healthcare team at Fairmount Home, and whereas nurses are part of a local community and shape and deliver effective interventions to meet the needs of our residents, families, and communities, therefore be it resolved that the week of May 10th to May 16th, 2021 be proclaimed Nursing Week in the County of Frontenac with the theme We Answer the Call to showcase the many roles that nurses play in a patient's healthcare journey.
Comments? I guess, well, we probably don't need to comment, but we do all appreciate, I can't imagine what they're all going through. It's been tough. So thank you. All in favor? Carried. Personal support workers.
Moved by Deputy Warden Doyle, seconded by Councillor Smith, whereas the Canadian Personal Support Worker Network promotes support and advocacy for PSWs across Ontario that offers support for mental health, education, resources, and strength to our community's most invaluable PSWs. And whereas the Canadian PSW Network advocates that PSWs are the ones who take care of our community's seniors and most vulnerable every day while they live, work, and raise their own families. And whereas the Canadian PSW Network takes action to improve the PSW's access to affordable education, resources, and increased awareness to the public of the importance of the role that PSWs play in our communities in the care of our community's loved ones. And whereas the Canadian PSW Network actively encourages everyone to join in recognizing the monumental importance of the personal support workers who provide the utmost of care, respect, and dignity to our community's most vulnerable, and acknowledge that the work and services they provide selflessly every day are truly invaluable, especially during the current crisis they are faced with in this global pandemic. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac hereby proclaim May 19th, 2021 to be Personal Support Worker Day in the County of Frontenac.
And I guess we don't need to repeat that, just how valuable it has been. It's been crazy. It really has. So thank you to all of them also. All in favor? Carried.
And for
Paramedic?
moved by Councillor Higgs, seconded by Councillor Mcdonald, whereas each year the paramedics of Frontenac Paramedic Services will respond to approximately 22,000 calls for assistance from the public, and whereas the paramedics are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and whereas access to quality emergency medical care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury, and whereas the members of paramedic services teams engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills, and whereas the members of paramedic services teams often find themselves in dangerous and traumatic situations requiring spontaneous decision-making, and whereas the members of paramedic services teams provide a vital pre-hospital service to the residents of the geographic area of the County of Frontenac and the City of Kingston, therefore be it resolved that the week of May 23rd to May 29th, 2021 be proclaimed Paramedic Service Week in the County of Frontenac with the theme Paramedic as Educator, Citizen Ready, which demonstrates the important role that paramedics play as educators to the public.
I don't want to sound like a broken record, but thank you to all the paramedics also. I mean, everybody knows what the last years have been like. So thank you very much for the dedication and the service they provide. All in favor? Carried. Move into committee of the whole.
Moved by Councillor Rebel, seconded by Councillor Martin, that Council adjourn and meet as committee of the whole council with the deputy warden in the chair.
All in favor? Carried.
First up, we have CAO Kelly Pender with a brief report. Are you with us, Kelly?
I am Deputy
Thank you.
Warden, and I'll just turn the screen on here, and I'll be as brief as possible.
And your report is up, so we're ready to go.
Thank you very much. So this is our report for April the 21st, 2021, and as usual, I'll highlight an item on each page, but feel free to interrupt or to ask questions. And if we don't have an immediate answer, we will get back to you. Been a busy month. A couple of things that pop out on the list is our presentation to KFL&A Public Health on March the 24th with regards to long-term care and the EOWC Warden's Report. And the Board of Health did endorse a recommendation to support the report, and we appreciate the support of Public Health and Chair Doyle and Dr. Moore, of course. A number of issues over the last few weeks. EORN welcomes the 2021 Ontario budget broadband commitment. Again, looking at $2.1 billion for additional broadband. EORN studies of Eastern Ontario are that the cost to do Eastern Ontario is about $1 billion. So you can see that there is likely to be a gap between the amount needed and the amount that is going to be provided. But there was an announcement in the federal budget as well for increased funding, but we continue to advocate for what I think the pandemic has shown to be one of the highest priorities for Eastern Ontario and for rural living. Just a reminder that AMO will be virtual again this year. There is an early bird registration rate if you take advantage by April 30th. If anybody off County Council is anticipating going, please get in touch with Angelique and we'll make sure that you get the early bird rate. Continue to work with the province on more inclusive, age-friendly communities and community planning. As you'll know, the County of Frontenac did our age-friendly plan about 4 years ago, and we continue to include that in our work. age-friendly communities are an important part of our communities, and I think it's fair to say that during the pandemic, it's been children and our seniors that are most affected by the pandemic. The province has announced the flowing of gas tax money. We haven't got the exact dates yet, generally June 1st and December 1st, or November 1st, December 1st. But we'll see when that comes through. And the feds have announced a doubling of it, which doesn't exactly double for everybody because there are some carve-outs for transit, but a significant increase for the 5 Frontenac municipalities. The Ontario Recovery and Municipal Elections Act does change the date for nominations, backs it up into August. So if you are looking at running, and I'm sure there'll be plenty more announcements between now and next year, but you can look towards registering to your nomination in August of next year. Interesting about savings time, and has received royal assent to make daylight savings time standard time year round, but that is subject to our neighbors in Quebec and New York State doing the same. Green Municipal Funds new funding initiative for community retrofits. Details on the link in the slides, but the deadline is August the 28th. And as we reported, we were successful in receiving a grant in cooperation with Central Frontenac as part of their seniors housing development and communal servicing project in downtown Sharp Lake on the old school site. Continue to make progress in terms of views and activity on our social media channels, and certainly I think anybody that followed the news, it isn't surprised to find that our posts with respect to Jude Layton and his recovery back a month ago was one of the highest engagement tweets that we had. Also had considerable social media over International Women's Day, and our chief and deputy chief, one of the few paramedic services in Ontario, led 2/3 by women, and just a big shout out to both Chief Chevalier and Deputy Chief Edward for all their work in providing paramedic services. Also some interesting feedback in terms of the picture at the bottom right, some of the doors on Lilac Terrace in Fairmount Home that we're trying to create more of a home atmosphere. Certainly the studies indicate that the more home-like an atmosphere you can create for seniors with cognitive issues, the more likely they are to show less decline and to feel more at home. And Susan and the team at Fairmount have been implementing this model across the home over the last couple of years. And this was a wonderful addition to the home and receiving great reviews from residents, families, and our social media channels. Shout out to Allison and Richard. We were featured on page 14 of the Eastern Ontario Business Journal Power Book that is distributed throughout Eastern Ontario as part of a regional initiative. And Wayne Robinson from Sharp Lake was also featured in the article. So thank you to Allison, Richard, and Wayne, and everybody that helped contribute to making improving the profile of Frontenac County. A couple of planning department updates, and it's safe to say that planning activity remains high. We've got a graph in a moment, but South Frontenac is commencing their new official plan. We congratulate South Frontenac for moving forward with this important initiative. They've hired Dillon Consulting to help them. Central Frontenac official plan, open house will be held on April the 28th, to be followed by a final consideration by Central Frontenac Council, and it should be before the Planning Advisory Committee and Council probably the summer, early fall of this year. North Frontenac Community Improvement Plan, a public meeting held in April, and the Frontenac Islands site plan control bylaws being considered by their council, and the Communal Services Committee, there'll be a report presented to council today. So significant non-planning application related activity to follow along the number of planning applications that continue to filter into North Central and the islands, and the number of inquiries that we receive is also receiving a commensurate increase. So HR update, we have applied, as Director McCullough has mentioned, for a municipal modernization grant to help with the human resources information system. We did a parallel application along with the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville, which we think will help our standing with that grant, but we'll keep you posted on that. Ongoing bargaining prep for our OPSU paramedic and QP Marine Services contracts that expired at the end of the year, and we anticipate negotiation dates coming up. We've completed 180 competitions through April the 12th, and that's well in advance of where we were even that time last year. Part-time paramedic recruitment, we interviewed and tested 51 paramedic candidates for part-time and summer help, and also our community paramedicine program. As you recall, we received $6.5 million to support community paramedicine. So continuous recruitment in paramedic and long-term care world. Occupational health is providing ongoing support for COVID and COVID response. Safe to say that Bonnie has been keeping busy along with Nancy Shillington, who is leading our infection prevention and control program at Fairmount, and keeping on top of it and adapting to ever-changing rules in terms of workplace lockdowns and infections with children's in schools. We're planning a leadership development series for 2021, continuing our leadership growth program in anticipation of recruitment and retirements, and we are updating our labor relations strategy. A couple of welcomes, Dimitri, Lizanne, and Carolyn to human resources, community paramedicine, and community planner positions. So I know you'll be seeing a fair bit of Dimitri, and we appreciate Lizanne's leadership in the community paramedicine program, and certainly Carolyn's support as a human resources coordinator. The admin office project, we've approved moving to the next step along with the CRCA, and we're into the detailed design phase. Material costing to continue. We anticipate that cost increase will be in the neighborhood of 20 to 25% on materials as a result of shortages related to the pandemic. That was built into the first budget. And as part of our detailed design, we will have what's known as a Class C estimate, which is a more detailed estimate for consideration by the admin task force. In preparation for the site plan amendment that's going to be required, Sonia Bolton, our manager of community planning, has assisted our architects in pre-application meetings with the city of Kingston. The city is looking at the possibility of getting a road widening along Battersea Road, which may necessitate design changes and location changes for the council chambers. So we're awaiting a survey of the Battersea Road property line and where that road widening would take place. Now, certainly there are concerns with respect to the old stone wall and the steep slope opposite the old house. So we'll be, once we receive the survey back from the surveyor, which is required as part of the site plan, we'll be meeting with the city to talk about how this will all work. But it may necessitate us coming back to the design task force to look at alternate locations for or the council chambers or adjustments to that space in order to meet the setback. And we will be having a meeting with the task force at some point over the next several weeks as we get this information finalized. So with that, Deputy Warden, if there are no questions, or if there aren't questions, I'm here to answer them.
Scully,
and I'll stop sharing my screen.
Thank you very much. It's been an extremely busy month, as you say, and I want to thank you and all the staff at the county for the great work during these extremely difficult times. And I'll open up for questions. Anybody got questions? And I'll go back to the full view. Any questions or comments here today? Well, very good presentation. Leaves no questions. So I'll move on to the next item, which I think we're doing the resolution on the audited financial statements.
So that's moved by Councillor Higgins and seconded by Councillor Smith. Resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac receive the Corporate Services 2020 Audited Financial Statements Report, and further that the Council of the County of Frontenac approve the 2020 Audited Financial Statements of the Corporation of the County of Frontenac.
Any questions or comments on that? I'll call the vote and all in favor. It is carried. And the next one, Planning and Economic Development.
Moved by Councillor Mcdonald, seconded by Councillor Higgs, whereas an application was filed with the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program Community, Culture and Recreation stream in November of 2019. Therefore, be it resolved that the CAO be authorized to enter into an agreement with the Province of Ontario should the said application be successful, and further that $88,331.04 from the Accessibility Reserve be allocated for the County 2021-2022 contribution to this project should the said application be successful.
Any questions or comments? I'll call the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Next one on the bylaw enforcement.
Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Rebel. Be it resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac receive the Corporate Services direction to proceed with the investigation and implementation of bylaws for the provision of an administrative monetary penalty process report for information, and further that staff report back to Council no later than June 2021 for Council's consideration with provisions for a bylaw respecting enforcement of orders during a declared emergency and a bylaw to establish a process for administrative penalties.
Any questions or comments? Having seen none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And again, unanimous. Except Fran, I guess I can't see you. You'll speak up if you're against it.
I certainly will. I had to let the
Oh,
cat
there you
in.
are. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that with us. The next one, I think, is on regional roads.
Moved
Jeanette?
by Councillor Higgins. Moved by Councillor Higgins, seconded by Warden Vanderwall. Be it resolved that the Frontenac Regional Roads Network KPMG final report be received, and further that the Council of the County of Frontenac forward the report to each of the member municipalities for their review and action, and further that the county provide the report to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, advising that any further action will be at the discretion of the member municipalities, and further that county involvement in this project moving forward be at the request of the member municipalities.
Any comments or questions? Yes, Warden, and then Bill.
Are we forwarding this to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs? Is that part of the requirement for the funding?
Through you, Deputy Warden, as part of this was funded through the Municipal Modernization Fund. So we're to report on results to the province of Ontario. So it is similar to the strategy core document it's provided to the province of Ontario. for their
Okay,
information.
thank you.
And Bill, you had a question, comment? Turn your mic on, Bill. Or push or space.
Hold the space bar down, Bill.
If you can't find the clicker on the mic, push your space bar down, it'll work. There you go.
I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just wondering if we're forwarding this report through you, Mr. Deputy Warden, if we're forwarding this to the municipalities, should we have a time frame in which they should respond on their position on moving forward with this program?
Good question. Kelly, will you have a time frame in the communication?
I think the consensus among the CAOs was that it was to go to their council. And as the last part suggests, that it would only come back to this council should the member municipalities wish. So I didn't put a timeline in it because there is no obligation to report back at the wish of the CAOs.
Okay.
It would be nice to find out, I guess, if maybe we do that through our CAOs if that's acceptable. Okay, any more questions? I'll call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? I didn't, oh, there, Ron Higgins' hand just went up. Time delay. It's passed. We'll move on to the resolution on communal services.
Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Higgs. Resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac receive and approve the Communal Services Governance Model Final Report dated 3rd of March 2021, prepared by WSP Consulting, and further that Council endorse the recommendations of the Communal Services / Governance Operations Committee to create a municipal service corporation to manage communal service development across Frontenac, and that each township invest in the MSC using a weighted assessment model. And further that Council send this recommendation to each township for consideration and endorsement in May 2021.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Yes, Alan, you've got the floor. Unmute your mic.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. I've had the opportunity actually to read through the full report, but it is extensive and there are a number of considerations I think that would require, I think, a little more time to properly consider before I think I would be prepared to support its final adoption or approval by the county. The report is very thorough. I think probably also it might be beneficial to have the advice from a member of municipalities before the county actually were to conclude a final endorsement. One of the things that I'm not clear about in terms of the report is I get the sense from the report that there is an expectation that the board will be self-financing, but I don't see any indication of how that's going to be achieved. Any estimation of how the funding to make that happen isn't going to be put in place. So from my perspective, I believe it's a little premature for the county to adopt it as a final report. I'm quite happy to receive it, but I think it's a little premature to fully endorse or adopt the report. Thank you.
Yes, we've had several committee meetings on this, and we've proposed this at the committee level. Yes, Fran, you've got a comment or question?
Yes. I just want to say that a lot of time has been spent on this, and if Alan has a question about the financing, I don't know if Kelly can answer that question about funding, but certainly the consultants could. I believe we should accept this and go forward. And if our municipalities individually have specific questions, let's get them answered so that we can all be clear what we're doing and how this is going to work. We've spent a lot of time on it now, and I think we need to move it forward. And there will be questions to be answered as we go forward.
Thank you. Agree. And Warden Van der Wal?
My only comment is, and some of it is still, I guess I could use the word fluid, the dividends thing, and there's some other stuff in there that, even though that's what it says, that's not the end result yet. It's basically accepting it to move it forward, and then things will change it.
Yeah, it's not cast in stone yet, Alan, and we want the feedback from the municipalities. Yes, Alan, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Deputy Warden. I do appreciate the comments from our mayors who have participated in the committee and had the opportunity to be fully apprised of the report and the work that's gone into it. But for the members of this council who have not had that opportunity, this is a fairly first blush at it. It's very comprehensive. There's a great deal of information in it. I'm quite comfortable with accepting it to move it forward. But I think to say that all of the provisions or the recommendations that have been put forward are necessarily the best ones, I'm not sure I'm prepared to make that statement at this point. I don't know, even to Councillor Smith, what my questions are or might be with respect to the financial model. It still seems to be unclear to me, and I'm not sure it's a simple question that I could ask our CAO this morning to clarify that for me. I think it needs a fair bit more review. Thank you.
Maybe it's the word endorsement that's could be changed to provide feedback in May 2021. Yes, Warden, you've got a question or comment.
And that's what it's saying. And it just says there, and further, that council send the recommendations to each township for consideration and endorsement. So they would have the opportunity to have input from each municipal staff member who's also, our finance and our CAO have went over the details of that extensively, to bring a report to councils for their comfort level on some of the detail. And then they could give those comments back to the county.
Yes, Councillor Mcdonald.
Yes,
You've
in the
got the floor.
recommendation through you, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, in the recommendation, the next step, as I understand it, is that WSP, the consulting firm, after its return to the municipal councils, will they be making a presentation to the local council so that some of the questions that are being asked now could be answered by the consulting firm? Am I right in understanding that's the next step?
Yes, Kelly, do you have a comment on that timing?
Yes,
Or
WSP has prepared a presentation that will be delivered to each of the 4 councils during your May cycles. So at that point, they can review the financials or answer any questions you may have. And as the warden mentioned, we have reviewed the financials in great detail with the CAOs and the treasurers as well, but certainly available to help out in any shape, manner, or form throughout the process.
Thank you. Alan, would it help to move this forward if we change that word endorsement to something like feedback?
Most certainly. There's been a tremendous amount of work has gone into this, and I appreciate that from the mayors have had that opportunity to participate fully along the way. I've not had, and I think the document is significant. It has tremendous implications for municipalities moving forward, and generally in favor of this, but I think it just needs a little more look at before I'm prepared to fully endorse it.
Yeah, agreed. And Warden, you have another question or comment?
Well, I was wondering if you could change that then to say, and further, that council send the recommendation to each township for consideration and or comments and endorsement.
I'm fine with that. Does that work for you, Alan, and other members?
It's fine with me, thank you.
Say for consideration period.
Yeah, that's crisper. Are we okay with consideration, Mr. Warden? Yeah. Okay, well, Jeanette, can you change that endorsement to consideration? And we'll have a vote on that.
So I'm just not sure what you're asking here. Consideration is already there. So am I just deleting an endorsement?
Okay, well, I see, yes. Yeah, just delete and endorsement, I think is what Ron Higgins is.
Should we read the motion
yeah.
again?
Oh.
It's the same as before with just deleting the last couple words there before May 21. Do you want it read again?
No.
Jeanette?
So I have a motion to amend here. It's moved by Councillor Rebel and seconded by Councillor Higgins. And simply it's going to be it resolved that the final resolve clause, we're going to be deleting and endorsement. So it's simply going to read, and further that council send this recommendation to each township for consideration in May 2021.
That's correct. Okay, is there any more comments or questions? If not, I'll call the vote. All in favor? It's unanimous. And we'll move on to the Fairmount survey. Very detailed survey there. Thank you. I guess we don't have a resolution on that, do we? Is there any questions on that? A lot of information, and maybe we'll hear more about it from Jerry later. Okay, the next is Queen's Archive. Annual report. No resolution, but any questions?
Mr. Deputy
Yes.
Warden.
Yes.
I just had
Go
a
ahead.
comment. I just had a comment on the survey from Fairmount. I think maybe the numbers, this is just me speculating when I looked through it, the numbers of satisfaction might be down a little bit, which I was quite surprised by, other than maybe everybody's just frustrated with COVID. But I think as far as our home, I would think that the level would have to be pretty high, how we went through the pandemic and how everything survived there.
Good point.
But maybe there was there's just frustration, period, about either not being able to visit or all those other things.
Yeah, stressful year for sure. Anything before we move on to the complaint handling? A good report, and nice to see the work being done. If there's no questions on that, do we want to take a 5 or 10 minute break? We've been at this for an hour and, well, almost 2 hours. People want a break, or you want to bulldoze through? Well, if nobody wants a break, we'll carry on. We've got reports from the liaison committee. First one's Councillor Higgs on emergency and transportation services.
Yes, Deputy Warden, I have a report. Effective April 1st, Rob Dillabaugh, Frontenac Island's Public Works Manager, will be responsible for ferry operations. Kevin Farrell has returned to his full duties as Manager of Continuous Improvement. The second announcement is that the QP 109 Collect Agreement has expired, and we will be looking at negotiating dates with the union. That includes the transportation report. Do you want the paramedics report now?
Yes, yeah. You're doing
Okay.
both, Bruce, if you've got one.
Yes. I received the following comments from Gail Chevalier. Thank you, Gail. Interviews have been ongoing for recruitment of more part-time paramedics. The plan is to hire 20 more by the start of June. Our 2 new full-time community paramedics and superintendent of performance standards, community paramedicine have started, and the community paramedicine in long-term care program is underway. And we have been participating in discussions with the GTA paramedic chiefs and IMS representatives about the possible need for Frontenac paramedics to assist with moving COVID-19 patients from the GTA area to our region. And lastly, paramedics continue working at the assessment center and mass immunization clinics, as well as pop-up clinics to assist with COVID response. That concludes my paramedics report. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Any questions for Bruce? We'll move on to the long-term care report from Councillor Martin.
Dennis, can I just make a comment before we move on? And that is just that. Oh.
Fran, lost your voice, Fran. I think you went on mute.
I just want to make a comment about how fantastic it is to have the paramedics at the vaccination centers. When we do the one in Charlotte Lake, they are just excellent helpers, and everyone feels so much more comfortable to know that they're there to both vaccinate as well as to keep an eye on folks in case there's an allergic reaction. So just fantastic work that these folks are doing. Thank you very, very much from our community and all the communities.
I agree. Thanks for commenting. Jerry, you have the floor.
Yeah, we're going to talk about long-term care. Back to Ron's comment about the survey, the resident family survey shows an increase in the family satisfaction with the way the relatives are being looked after, and they consider the relatives safe in our home at Fairmont. And I think it's a great thing to show the quality of care at Fairmont. However, the residents have endured a lockdown for the past year, and their satisfaction levels are certainly dropping. And you can't blame them. I mean, these people, it's almost like they've been in prison for a year, and they're lonely. They're cut off from the outside world. They must be frightened during this pandemic. Now, I know that the PSWs and all the staff at Fairmont have done a great job, but the HR job has become almost impossible, I would think, with the part-time staff coming and going. It's got to be just a terrible thing to face every day. The whole long-term care system, I think, is going to be in trouble until we develop a career type position for what we now consider PSWs. Until that happens, like with permanent full-time jobs with benefits, I really can't see a change after the pandemic. We may go back into the same old, and I hope that doesn't happen. I think a lot of that has to do with the for-profit sector, although we're not involved in that. That's not a county thing. But I just think that's part of the root problem is the part-time staffing situation. I know we've said that people can't work at more than one institution at a time, but with the shortage of staff, that situation is not going to change. I don't think it can change. It's just not practical. And I really don't think the elderly for the past few generations, maybe 2 generations, are valued the way they were back in our grandparents' day. I think that there's been a shift in social policy towards elderly. Although I do believe, I've been around this Fairmont thing now for this is my 3rd year. It's been a real eye opener for me. I didn't realize how in depth the problem was. And I really think that, you know, the politicians at a higher tier are trying to solve a problem, but let's just hope we don't slip back into where we were before the pandemic. I know that's a general rant, that's a personal rant, but that's a personal observation. And I think we're really fortunate to have people like Susan Brandt looking after our Fairmont home. And that's my comments for today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We owe a great deal of thanks to all the staff at Fairmont.
For sure.
Warden Vanderwall, did you have a comment?
Well,
Yes.
my only comment
Ron?
would be on what Councillor Martin is saying. His grandparents, but in those days, most people kept them home also. There's a higher expectation now.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Any more questions for Jerry? No. We'll move on then to Councillor Mcdonald on corporate services.
Through you, Deputy Warden, the information that was filed with our package this year by Alan Lemieux, I really cannot add anything further than what he's already presented to council in regard to corporate services. So I will leave it up, and I've heard nothing else from him, and I have not been able to visit with him. So that'll be my report, Mr. Deputy Warden.
Thank you. Any questions from council? We'll move on then to Councillor Ravel and Planning and Economic Development report.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Most of the planning matters have been come forward from our CAO, so I will skip those in the keeping in mind the time. Move on to the economic development side of things. Open Farms is well underway with some of the planning. It appears they're going to look at a hybrid version this year of Open Farms. No, there won't be any actually open farms, but some online, some virtual elements. I look at an opportunity to possibly participate at the Frontenac Farmers Market. So some of the vendors could show up there. Wolf Island may also participate in a different way. Tourism Kingston is participating to include some of the Kingston farms. The destination plan survey is nearly ready to launch, and I think that will provide some guidance to our department moving forward, but also some of the businesses in our community. Lastly, our next item on the agenda, K&P Trail is likely to move into the next phase going north from Clarendon Station. North Frontenac Township is supportive of that, but there is a need to purchase some land, and the rail bed itself is not in as good condition as the Sharp Lake to Clarendon Station, so there will be additional work there. They've launched an RFQ for trail maintenance, and they're looking at actually 3 different vendors to do some of the trail maintenance, which is moving forward. The county has applied for an ICIP funding accessibility grant. No confirmation publicly for that grant, but they hope to be adding some benches, including some gate access and also just the accessibility areas of the trail to secure for all users. K&P Trail has looked at installing some counters in some of the northern areas and noted some tremendous snowmobile use. About 300 snowmobiles passed through Sharp Lake in some of the high volume Saturdays in February and into early March. They've also created an app that will be able to assist with some of the maintenance areas where repairs might be needed. So it's just about 80% ready for the field. So that will be coming. That's my report, Deputy Warden.
Thank you very much. Yes, Ron, and then Bill.
My only other comment is South Frontenac is creating a multi-use pad in Centennial Park. And we're also excited to that the farmers market has agreed, and they are moving there when, of course, conditions allow. But when we get that built, it'll be a great location for the farmers market to expand also for parking and everything. So it's a great spot for that. Just a comment.
Good, thank you. Bill?
Yes, through Deputy Warden to Al, in regard to his report, in regard to the KNP and the volume of traffic that's actually on it. I will say this, that the KNP over the last couple of weeks, and I think it has something to do with the stay-at-home order, it has been tremendously busy with the ATVs on it. I live quite close to the KNP here. I'm about a half a mile from it, and the Beltline Road is another access point to it. And it's nothing to see 8 or 10 or 15 ATVs going by the house here to access the trail. So the decision to keep the trail in good condition is bearing out very well and speaks volumes for our decision to take it over. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Warden.
Thank you. And Alan, library report. I've got to just leave for a second, so you carry on.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. So to Councillor Mcdonald's question, the library is currently meeting virtually. However, none of the measures introduced by the province have changed what we are currently doing. It's largely curbside pickup only, but interior access for people who want to make use of the computers along the way. So that's still remaining as it has been. Our April meeting actually has been canceled. We had a speaker that was going to make up largely the biggest part of our agenda. They are no longer available, so that needs to be canceled. We are looking at a full day of training for on May 8th to consider some of the Carver governance model. And so things are carrying on pretty much as normal. That's my report, Mr. Warden, Deputy Warden.
Thank you very much, Alan. Any questions on the library report? Having seen none, I'll move on to the public health report. And just want to say thanks for all the support from all the municipalities. As by comparison, we're in an enviable position, much better than others. However, having said that, over the last several weeks, we have seen a dramatic increase in cases, primarily due to the new variants that are out there. And Dr. Moore had put out a video on Monday expressing concerns on the small towns across the entire region of KFLNA that are getting cases due to primarily gatherings of fairly large groups. Even some outside around bonfires and so on have experienced cases being spread. So we are concerned. We're up in the 100 case range. We've been there for the last couple of weeks. And we hope that people will adhere to the stay-at-home order, because that seems to be the main way to stop it from spread. If you're not dealing with people outside your household, you're not going to get it. So the message is, please stay at home and please follow all the public health rules. I should say the new measures that come down on Saturday in my community, we did have a rumor going around that the Queen students were going to descend on Big Sandy Bay on Wolf Island because the parks were closed in Kingston. So we engaged Frontenac bylaw officers, which were very good, and they both checked people getting on the ferry to make sure they were coming for essential reasons, and attended Big Sandy Bay. Unfortunately, we didn't have the number of people that we expected, but we did turn away a number of folks that did leave their house for no justifiable reason. So I'm not sure if other municipalities are calling in Frontenac bylaw, but they're very familiar with the rules and very helpful. Thank you. That's my report. Any questions?
Dennis, I have a question.
Yes, Jerry.
The people who went for the AstraZeneca shot through the pharmacies, I've heard that they don't know how or if they're going to be contacted for the second shot. Do you know anything about that through the public health?
The only thing I know is that there's a bigger percentage of the vaccine going to the hotspots in Toronto, and we're worried that we won't get as much as we would have normally received. And I know some pharmacies are taking people's names and phone numbers, and we'll call them when it's available. So nothing definite yet, and we're trying our best, but we're worried that our supply will be reduced.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. My picture seems to be frozen, but my audio is working. So we'll carry on and ask Warden Smith to give the housing and homeless report.
Actually, former warden.
Oh, yeah, what's this? What am I talking about? Yeah, this isn't Warden, it's Councillor Smith.
That's
I
right.
shouldn't read
That's
what's in front of me. Yeah.
I have no report. There is a group now that are looking at the encampment situation in the city of Kingston for the upcoming season, but no report other than that.
Okay, thank you. Food Policy Council, Councillor Higgs.
Yes, Deputy Warden, I'm pleased to report that the Food Policy Council had a virtual meeting on April the 8th. The Food Literacy for Students Act, Bill 216, I've been talking about that for a little while. MPP Daryl Cramp is promoting the bill actively at Queen's Park. There are 150 organizations who have supported the bill. We are still waiting for a date for the standing committee meeting. The bill aims to ensure that food literacy and skills education be embedded in the school curriculum from grades 1 to 12. On the topic of income security and food security continues to be an issue. In the city, 1,500 meals a day are being provided through the Food Providers Network. There is a proposal in place for the city to create a food hub. The Food Policy Council supports the national campaign for basic income and the provincial campaign for paid sick days on the basis that both of these measures would allow people to stay home sick and help contain the COVID-19. And the fourth item is that we're into the membership recruitment stage. The Food Policy Council wished to invite 4 to 5 new members and is particularly looking for representation from the Frontenac counties and Lennox and Addington. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Is there any questions for Bruce? If so, you have to speak up because I've lost the video pictures. Well, I've got a still picture of everybody, but that won't help. If there's no questions or comments, I will ask Jeanette to read the resolution on reverting back to regular council.
Moved by Councillor Revel, seconded by Councillor Mcdonald, that council revert from committee of the whole council to council.
If anybody's opposed, please speak up. Having heard nobody, I'll consider it passed and move back to regular council. Ron, the chair's yours, and I'm going to log out and back in.
Okay, thank you. We do have a motion. Adoption of the report.
Moved by Deputy Warden Doyle, seconded by Councillor Martin, that the report of the Committee of the Whole Council be adopted and that the necessary actions or bylaws be enacted.
Any comments? All in favor? Carried. Notices of motions.
So there is a motion here moved by Warden Vandewall, seconded by Councillor Higgins, whereas procedural bylaw 2013-0020 Schedule D, council liaisons, sets out the purpose of council liaisons to act as a conduit between council and senior leadership and to be the primary spokesperson for issues related to the operation of the department and direction. And whereas Schedule D also sets out the expectation of council liaisons, with one being to provide on a monthly basis, an overview of the departmental activities to council. Therefore, be it resolved that procedural bylaw 2013-0020 Schedule D expectations be amended to either A, require that council liaisons report be written and included for information in the council agenda package with no verbal updates provided at the meeting unless there are any questions on the written report, or number 2, to delete the requirement for providing a monthly overview of the departmental activities unless there is something that needs council support.
Any comments or questions, or Councillor Higgins?
Yeah, I'd like to move that we look at option 2. I'm just listening to those reports this morning and other meetings, and I find the departmental reports coming as counter liaisons. Really, there isn't anything new or that I'm hearing from the council liaisons that I haven't already heard in the reports from staff.
Councillor Ravel?
Thank you, Warden. I was just, if that was going to take place, I just wanted to just ensure that knew clearly what time those reports needed to be put on the council agenda.
Okay, well, we'll find out which one gets approved, I guess, or supported. Councillor Mcdonald?
Yes, I have a tendency to support option number 2, delete the requirements, because I felt that especially when we were meeting in person, most of the department heads were in a presence within the room. So I've been one to wonder why we have these liaison committee reports, because basically you're repeating what the department head, or if you had a question, most of the time, if you have a question in corporate services and you direct it to me, I'm going to have to turn and ask the people that are involved in answering the question. So I can't see the purpose of it. So I would support deleting the requirement, providing monthly overviews of department activities. And I think if there is a question by anyone, that the department head's in a better position to answer than what I would be. Thank you, Mr. Warden.
Thank you. Who else was? Oh, Councillor Martin?
Yeah, I have to agree with Councillor Mcdonald. The reason is because the report with the Zoom meetings has turned into more just a personal commentary. The staff have already covered the substance of the material. I think it's a waste of time. I think Councillor Higgins is absolutely right. Unless there's something to be brought forward to council, there's no point in the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? So I guess on that note, are we supporting to come back and support B2? Sorry. What do you want here, Jeanette?
So I believe we have a motion on the floor moved by Councillor Higgins and seconded by Councillor Mcdonald that option 1 be deleted. So the motion would just read that Schedule D expectations be amended to delete the requirement for providing a monthly overview of the departmental activities.
Okay.
So we just need to call the question on the amendment first.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Councillor McDonald, yes.
Yes, I'm just wondering if we're talking about simply the internal liaison committee. I agree with that. I believe that perhaps a report from members of the outside organizations might be useful, because we don't have staff in presence in regard to the library or health. I think it might be important we still get at least a verbal report from those groups, but the internal liaison appointments are the ones that I feel are repetitive. Thank you.
The only comment I would make to that is the library provides written minutes, or they always did, of all of their activity in council meetings. And external, we do have staff, and we do have all the mayors on health, all the calls.
Okay.
So anyway, if there's anything that can come to council, I'm sure staff will provide it.
Yeah.
So first is the vote on the amendment. Councillor Higgins, you're muted.
Ron,
Ron?
you're muted.
There.
So I just wanted to make a comment that this is just dealing with the council liaison for department. It doesn't deal with external.
So what, are you wanting both or just one?
No, I was just voting. No, I'm in agreement. I would like to hear some verbal reports on the external committees. As Councillor Mcdonald pointed out, we're not involved in those. We don't hear a lot of information. So I do appreciate updates on those. And this resolution to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jeanette, only deals with the departmental liaisons.
That's correct.
Okay.
The only comment then I would like to make, if you wanted to change that, I still think they should be a written report. Why should not people who are not on council be not able to read the minutes and see what those reports are? And then if there's questions or comments, they could be asked at council.
So Ron, what
So
you
would
were
have-
saying then is all of the external committees, we submit those minutes and they just become part of the public package.
Exactly. If there's questions there, or if there's highlights, or if they need support for something, absolutely bring it up. I don't have a problem with that. But I think that information should also become into the documentation of the minutes.
Okay. I have no problem with that.
Let's bring that forward in the next meeting for the next notice of motion.
Okay, so we'll deal with the council liaison appointments, and then the next notice of motion will deal with external boards next time. Is that fair? Okay.
Good plan.
Okay, so this is to eliminate the council liaison reports. All in favor? Carried. So I guess, Jeanette, we're probably going to, well, I guess maybe there is farther down if they're serving notice of motions or anything. Okay.
Sorry, Warden Vanderwall, I just have that motion as carried for the amendment. You now need to
Yes.
Call the question on the motion as amended.
Okay. All in favor of the motion as amended? Carried. Thank you. Giving notices of motion. I don't think I can do it as in the chair. Does somebody want to give a note? Councillor Higgins?
To give notice of motion that we eliminate the verbal reports for external committees and simply include them as a part of the communications package that we get on a weekly basis.
Can we add to that the minutes of those external committees? Be part of the package, the minutes?
Agreed, yeah. Agreed.
So that's just serving notice of motion and it'll come up next council meeting. Is that correct, Jeanette?
That is correct, but I would just like to point out that we do not receive minutes from the KFL&A Public Board of Health. We do not receive minutes from the Food Policy Council of Kingston. I can request from the City of Kingston minutes from the Housing and Homelessness Advisory Committee, but they would not be provided until the committee actually adopts those minutes. So they could be several months behind.
But I guess the member that's on that board could provide a brief written minutes from their meeting.
Actually, we could submit the minutes that we get as part of the agenda for the meeting in that month, as long as it's clear they haven't been approved yet.
Okay, Councillor Higgs.
Okay, in my case, let's say the Food Policy Council report, we try to have our meeting before the county council meeting takes place. So I could easily, I have the report typed out, but would I submit that to the Jeanette to include in the minutes of the upcoming meeting?
That's what I'm looking forward for.
So how much time do we have? Do we have like 2 or 3 days to get the report in before the county council meeting?
So the minutes would have, sorry, anything would have to be in the hands of the clerk by Friday morning because the agenda goes out on Friday.
Yeah, okay, no, that's no problem.
But Bruce, you must get minutes of your previous meeting at the meeting you're having.
I can forward you the minutes of the actual Food Policy Council from the previous month, but it is one boring read when you're not, if you're not following along on all the topics.
But that's what we're doing. We're submitting the minutes. I'm not going to rewrite what happened at the meeting.
Well, believe me, what I report that I give is a very brief summary compared to the discussion that are in those
So
minutes.
can I interrupt? A point of order, just serving a notice of motion. This discussion should happen at the next meeting.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay. So it's just serving notice of motion, and we will discuss this about how they want those minutes presented, or if they can be an abbreviated form of the member that's on there. Okay? That's just communications. Any questions? First and second reading. Oh, sorry. Other business? None? Public question period, is there any? Bylaws.
Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Rebel, resolved that leave be given to the mover to introduce bylaws A and B that have been circulated to all members of County Council, and that bylaws A and B be read a first and second time.
Comments? All in favor? Carried.
Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Rebel, resolved that bylaws A and B be read a third time, signed, sealed, and finally passed.
All in favor? Carried.
Moved by Councillor Higgins, seconded by Councillor Smith, that the meeting hereby adjourn at 11:22 a.m.
All in favor? Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Thanks, everyone.
Ron,
Have a good day.
do we
Hold
have
on,
a,
somebody's got a question.
yeah, do we have a building administration building meeting following this council meeting?
Cancel.
No.
It's been canceled?
Canceled.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Good
See you
day to
next month.
everybody.